All right, so here we go with this last video. It's going to be on graphing inequalities. So just going back to January, I know it's been a while, but we have to make sure we remember, jog our memory. So let's start off with the first one. We are going to be graphing x greater than 4 or x less than or equal to 1. So remember, we have to be very careful with these ors and these ands. So remember, or is the combination and is the intersection. So in this case, we're going to just go ahead and graph both inequalities on the same number line. So we're going to start off with our circle on 4. Since it's a greater than or equal, not equal to, so we're just going to put an open circle. Greater than means numbers to the right. So we're going to just go ahead and shade that way. At 1, we're going to go ahead and put our circle. It's going to be a closed circle because of the equals. It's including 1 as an answer. And we're going to go to the left because it's less than. So in this one, this is a combination of the two arrows. So my final answer is just anything that's part of the actual graph. So all of this would be my answer. Everything to the left and everything to the right would be my final answer. So in this case, for the ors, you don't really have to redraw them. It's the ands you have to be careful. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Actually, before we move on, let's just write in the notation for this one. Just to remember, it's from negative infinity to positive 1, close bracket, union with, let's draw that U a little bit better, union with, open parenthesis 4 to infinity. All right, let's go ahead and move on to number 2. Let's go ahead and graph this. We can't graph it until we first solve for x. So just like in the previous video, x's are already on the left. Move the number to the right. Two-step equation or inequality. 9x is less than or equal to 13 plus 5 is 18. Always divide by the number next to the variable. Now before I finish this one off, do I need to switch this inequality? So does it change is the question. So go ahead and decide. In this case, we would not change it because we're not dividing by a negative, we are dividing by a positive, so it stays exactly the same way. So we want all x values that are less than or equal to 2. So equals means close circle, everything less than. So we're going to highlight to the left. That's pretty much it for number 2. Let's move on to number 3. All right, here we have graph negative 2 less than x less than or equal to 4. So whenever you get an inequality that looks like this is a combined inequality, and these are always the ands. So again, the ones that are combined are always the and inequalities, not the ors. The ors will never be like this. It's always the ands. So we're just going to go ahead and graph this. Let me give me a second so I can move the screen up so we can look at the graph nicely. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and work on number 3. All right, so again, this is always the and. Let me just rewrite this when they're combined. All right, so we want everything between negative 2. That's going to have an open circle. And negative 4, and positive 4, that's going to be a closed circle. Remember, this belongs to this one belongs to that one. All right, so we have open circle, closed circle, and the and is everything in between. So again, that's everything in between. That's a quick way of graphing your ands when they're already combined, and that only works when they're combined. Remember, if you just do this, it's x less than 4. So I'll just draw this in green. You can skip this part, but just visually see it. It's left. This means everything, the second part right here, if I flip it over, it means everything greater than 2, which means that part. And our answer is everything that they intersect in. So it's where the 2 intersect for the ends. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. And last one. All right, so which number line below represents all real values of x? Which of the following inequalities describes this graph? So again, by looking at the graph, you should automatically know whether it's an or an and. So in this case, what is it? If you answered it's an or, you are correct. Remember, ors at the end, when they're done, go opposite directions and go in between. So again, these go away from each other, whereas ands are in between. So we know that it cannot be answers D and E because these are the ands. So it's one of the or ones. You just have to be very careful. So looking at this 5, we see that It's got a closed circle, so that means it's either A or B, which means it cannot be C. So we can eliminate C as well. Looking at the 10 over here, that's an open circle. Between A and B, you would know that it is B as your answer. So we would know B is our final answer. And we are done. So go ahead and start your practice, and good luck.